Hello guys, welcome back to Icewater Yoga. My name is Amanda, and today we're going to do another class focusing on stretching and keeping the hamstrings safe. And I say keeping them safe because I get a lot of people coming into classes, public classes, are like, I can't do yoga, I'm not flexible, I can't even touch my toes. And I'm always like, guys, touching your toes isn't the goal, because what happens sometimes is we work so hard to touch our toes that we wind up pulling or tearing, like even micro tears into our hamstring, which then gives us pain right underneath our glute or a little bit further down depending on the tear. And then you're walking around with a limp, and that's not fun for anyone. So pretending that touching our toes isn't the goal, even though it might happen, how do you stretch? How do you keep the hamstring safe? So that's what we're going to do today. If you are working at home and you have like a towel or a belt or a strap, that would be awesome. And if you don't have it, no worries. Not the biggest deal. Also, old t-shirts work well too. Okay, so we're going to come down onto our backs. Just get yourself nice and comfy. And once you get there, hug both knees into the chest. Give yourself a couple of rolls from side to side. Starting off nice and slow. And then I'm kind of feeling a full body stretch. So why don't we send both feet out nice and long and interlace the hands, flipping the palms up towards the sky or the wall behind you. And then as you inhale, stretching the whole body long, maybe even kind of moving the hips from side to side, getting some side body bends in there. Yeah, and then start to release and hug your right knee into your chest. So we'll start with this interlace of our hands below the kneecap. And as you draw your elbows in towards the body, bring the knee a little closer into the right armpit. So it's this deep squeeze, and you'll keep let's keep both feet flexed actually. So toes up towards the sky, and really pull that knee down into your armpit crease. Good. And then just release with the left hand, bring it to your hip. Draw that knee open towards the right a little bit more. And so it's a mix of gravity and your own body weight, pulling that knee down and open. You'll feel that in the inner right hip. Good. And then start to come down center. Take your left hand over the knee, and not even a full twist. I just kind of want you to pull the knee a little bit towards the left. So you start to feel that in the outer right hip. So nothing too crazy. Good. And then bring that knee down center and extend the full leg to the sky. And so this is where, if you have a block, might be really nice. A strap. So I want you to take that strap or that thing, whatever it is for you, and place it behind the right thigh. Draw your elbows in towards the body, and then pull on that strap as you resist with your leg. So it's almost like your leg is trying to break through that strap. A lot of tension on either end as you pull with your hands and your leg pushes with your arm. Or your leg What does that even mean? Your leg pushes with your arm. You know what I mean. Leg keeps pushing. Good. And then slowly release that tension. As you do that, the leg might fall a little closer to the body. This is where you drop that strap and you grab for your leg. Now, you might only reach behind the hamstring. That's okay. Maybe you have a little bit more room today and you crawl that leg, your hands closer to the ankle. Wherever you're at, keep extending the leg as straight as you possibly can and continue to seat that right hip down. So in other words, the right hip draws forward a little bit, and then the low back presses into the mat. You'll feel that stretch starting from really behind the knee all the way to the root of your hamstring, right below the glute. Good, and then go ahead, rebend that knee, send it long, and we'll do the same thing on the other side. So the left knee into the chest, find that squeeze towards the body and then towards your left armpit. Flex both feet. And then do your best to melt both shoulder blades back down towards the mat so they're nice and level. Good, and then that same action here, right hand to hip, start to draw the left knee out to the left a little bit. So it's like this mild hip opener. All the while keeping that right leg that's still on the ground active by squeezing the knee. Yeah, and then go ahead and find that same little almost twist, we'll call it, drawing the knee a little bit across the body, sending the breath to the left outer hip. One more inhale. Good, and as you exhale, knee comes down center. And again, we find this strap and place it behind the left thigh. And we'll do that same thing, elbows in towards the body, pull with your hands, resist with your leg and the entire leg. So squeeze the knee. Keep driving it forward as you pull actively with your hands. One more breath in. Good, and then release that tension and let the knee fall a little closer to you. You'll reach behind the hamstrings, maybe curling the hands up the thigh towards the ankle. Sending the breath to the left hamstring. Noticing the difference between pain and challenge. If it's pain, leave it, come out. We'll take one more breath in here. And as you exhale, bring both knees into the chest and slowly rock all the way up to a seat. I am so tangled in this strap. Okay, so untangle yourself from the strap, and then we're gonna come into Upavisha Kanasana, which is just a fancy way of saying a seated straddle. So this is where we start to think about taking care of our hamstrings. And that actually starts with the feet. So if you don't flex the feet, our default is for them to kind of just flop out to either side. So instead of letting them kind of flop out, what if we actively flex through the feet? And then we're very cautious of, especially our pinky toes angling directly up towards the sky. Right? So you feel that rolling down of the inner thighs. And as you squeeze the knees, the upper thighs start to firm. And then lastly, if you have a little bit of extra stuff going on back there, you can move the fleshy part of your butt away so that you're right on top of your sit bones. And that's important because as we start to crawl our fingertips forward, you're going to want a solid place to hinge from. So go ahead and do that. Crawl them forward to your own degree, but trying your best to keep the spine nice and long. So you'll feel this not only in the hamstrings, but definitely in the inner thighs too. Then we start to move with the breath, inhaling for some length, exhaling to hinge, inhaling for length, and exhaling to hinge. Not needing to go too deep either. So like if you're up here and you're like, oh my God, I can't go any further. Perfect, stay there. And wherever you're at, start to crawl your fingertips back up towards you. We're gonna bring both feet together in front of us. So this is Baddha Konasana. And as you do this, you can take your thumbs, and I really like sort of giving my feet like a little bit of a massage. You can take your thumbs into the arches of the feet and just kind of roll them out a little bit as the knees soften down towards the ground. Good. And then start to take an inhale, lengthening your spine. And as you exhale, hinging forward again. And you might find that as you hinge, your elbows can touch your calf muscles. So if that's you, that's cool, right? You can use that traction to actually press your calf muscles down towards the ground more and lengthen your spine a little bit more forward. Take one more breath in. Good, and then slowly start to release. And we're gonna plant our feet, hug the knees in towards each other. I'm gonna go sideways just to show you. I want you to wrap your forearms around your knees, come up onto your toes, and then drop your forehead to the tops of the knees. So we're in this little crouch, and as much as it looks like we're crying, we're not crying. We're actually stretching them back. So imagining that the center of your back, that space between your shoulder blades, could broaden even more. Can you round the back, draw the belly towards the spine? So we're making this huge C shape with our spine. Good, and then start to release that. Extend the legs out in front of you, and we take another kind of forward fold. So actively flexing toes back towards you, just like we did when our legs were open. Take a big breath in. And as you breathe out, start to hinge forward again. Now, if your hamstrings are super tight, another great place for your block or your strap. So you would take it, hook it around the arches of the feet, and then hold almost like you're riding a horse, or like you're Santa. I don't know why that was the next visual that came into my mind, right? But like a sleigh. I don't know, I kind of see it. So hold that as you lengthen your spine. And then with the breath, you may be able to work your rib cage a little closer to your thighs, but stopping at that place where the backs of your legs are starting to kind of talk to you. And once you found that sweet spot of sensation, pause there, maybe even close the eyes, and just start to breathe into that place. Let's take one more inhale. And exhale, drop a little deeper. Good, and then from that depth, slowly roll the spine all the way up, cross the knees, and come into downward facing dog. Feet come down, the hips come up. And just for a moment, hold your dog. And so we have this tendency to kind of like get here and then do all these fidgets. What does it feel like to get here and find stillness and really sit in that stillness? So all of the sensations come up immediately for you. Right? The lengthening that we're creating in the backs of the legs, how open or how tight the hamstrings feel today. And then can you, in your mind's eye, send some breath to those places? Good, and then slowly just step your right foot forward. We'll come into a low lunge. And for now, let's set the left knee down, untucking the toes. So as you breathe in, lengthen your spine and reach away from you with that left big toe behind you. So it's kind of like a lizard tail. Head and toe working in opposite directions. And then as you start to exhale, peel the hips back, flex the right toes. We're in Ardha Hanumanasana, or half monkey pose. Right? So for me, I actually have a damage to my left hamstring. Could I go deeper? Yeah, I would probably hurt myself if I did it. So I know that right here is the best place for me to work. So you find that place for you where you know you're safe, but you can feel the challenge. And then allow that challenge to bubble up to the surface. Maybe close the eyes. So you focus on creating the exact same amount of length in the back of the spine as you do in the back of that right leg. And then starting to add hinge. Right? So that leg will start to talk to you very, very quickly. If it does, try not to run away from the sensations. If anything, breathe into them, focusing on the exhales, maybe even going just a little deeper. One more breath in. Good, and then as you exhale, replant the foot and just step it back to downward facing dog. You're gonna do the same thing on the other side. Left foot comes forward. Again, it's this runner's lunge. Settling the right knee down, untucking the toes, and finding that deep sense of length from crown of head to big toe. You'll notice the more that you drop into the left heel, you'll even get a stretch along the front of that right hip point too, which is nice. And then we start to move into Ardha Hanumanasana here. So hips draw back, left leg straightens. And then you'll see that I kind of just fidgeted a little bit. What I'm doing there is I'm making sure that my right hip is stacked directly over my right knee, and that my left hip point is scissoring back. So it's pulling back to make it level with the right. And then from this place, I might start to hinge. Now, if we were going to do the full expression of this pose, it would be full splits. Unnecessary. Totally fun, but like really unnecessary. And it actually is more interesting work, I think, to sit with. There's a special kind of discomfort, I think, that happens when you're in a half split this pose. It's interesting to watch where the mind goes when you're in something that's not super comfortable. Can you keep the breath just as steady, the focus just as steady in something static? Let's take one more breath in. And on your exhale, rebend that leg. And we're going to actually do the same, come back to dog, and then we're going to do the same action just a little bit further away from the ground this time. So we'll step the right foot forward again, find a runner's lunge. And then from here, hips pull back. It's the same, but different. That left heel is going to be lifted. This is called a modified pyramid pose. If you feel like you want full pyramid, you can hop that back foot in. If you do that, that left heel must stay attached to the ground. And so it's just a choice. I kind of like modified because then you get a different kind of stretch in the left calf muscle. Then come up onto the fingertips here. Find the longest spine you possibly can. And as you breathe out, keeping that long spine, you might hinge a little bit more. All right, so this is simple work, but it's like kind of gruesome work if you have tight hamstrings. So notice if there's any other places in the body that are compensating any of the tension that's building. So for example, I clench my jaw if something's uncomfortable. Maybe you furrow your brow. So just check in on any other places where you might accidentally be storing this stretch. And if you want a little bit more, you can draw your toes up towards the sky. So that's really going to deepen the sensation here. Take one more breath in. Good. And then as you exhale, replant that foot, and we're going to take our hands and crawl them to the center of the mat. So you're going to, can't believe I'm talking to you like this. We're going to take your big toes in and your heels out. And then placing your hands down in front of you, come up to a flat back. Take a big inhale here. And as you exhale, hinge from the hips. We're just going to find, this is called prasarita. So it's standing forward fold with the legs nice and wide. When you're here, wherever your hands are is fine. But when you're here, drop more weight now into the toes. So you'll notice when you rock forward a little bit, how that stretches the hamstrings more. Right, so rock forward. You might even play with forward and back action just to feel the difference. Noticing how right side probably is a little bit more open right now. That's okay, because we're going to do the left next. So let's do that. Let's slowly start to crawl yourselves over to the left side. Find that low lunge. And then from this low lunge, hips back, legs straight, modified pyramid pose. And now I'm showing a couple different options with the hands. If you have super open hammies today, fingertips can come behind you. But otherwise, keep them right underneath the shoulders, or even if you have blocks, stacking them on blocks to give yourself a lift. And keep drawing that left hip point back. Noticing again, what's going on with the breath? What's going on with the mind? Maybe you even ask yourself if somehow you can get that left knee a little straighter. And then from that straight leg, adding some intensity, drawing the toes back towards the nose, taking some smooth, easy breaths. Good. Last inhale. Good. As you exhale, replant that foot and then just step the back foot up to meet it. So we're in a forward fold. So forward folds are actually kind of tricky. Seems very simple, but this is exactly where I tore my hamstring and where a lot of people I know have done the same. Because when you hear forward fold, you think, okay, so butt goes way up to the sky and head goes way low. And when you're doing that, you're unintentionally tilting your pelvis up. So what that upward action does, while it's technically, it's not wrong. What it does, if you're tilting it up so aggressively, it actually starts to tear the hamstring right here. So yes, we want to be lifting our hips up. Yes, we want that slight tilt, but be very cautious of not rushing your legs up towards the sky. So it's a slower process. Paying close attention to the origin, the root of your hamstring, that place right underneath the glute, making sure it's safe. And then Let's just add a little bit of a shoulder stretch. Interlacing the fingers at the low back. Draw the knuckles up and away from the tailbone. Squeeze the elbows towards each other. And then create a ton of space for the neck by drawing the shoulder heads away from the ears. Nod the head yes. Shake the head no. Good. And then slowly start to release. We're going to walk our feet towards each other. Last little bit here, I want to work with the breath to stretch the hamstrings a little more. So we'll take an inhale, come up to a flat spine, hands to shins. And then as you exhale, hands to the mat, come up onto the toes and bend the knees. So the butt drops towards heels, forehead drops towards knees. So we're in that crouch curl, same thing that we did before, just a little bit on our toes now. And then we do it again. Inhale, half lift, stretching hamstrings. Exhale, crouch curl, rounding in. 2 more times. Inhale, lift. Exhale, curl. Last one, lifting up. Curling in. Good. And then from here, come all the way down onto your butt. We will come to the center of our mat as long as you have some space. And just go ahead and bring your left foot to the inner right thigh. Take a little baby turn twist towards that foot. Find your flat spine. Inhale here. And then as you exhale, reach towards that right leg. Grabbing what you can grab. Maybe it's just hands to shins today. Maybe you close the eyes and just breathe. Every exhale dropping you deeper and intensifying whatever stretch it is that you found in your hamstring. One more inhale. Good, and then slowly start to come towards center and just switch sides. So again, we found a little turn twist first so that our chest is working towards squaring over that left thigh. And then as you're ready, finding a forward fold that suits you. One breath in, one breath out. Inhaling for length, and exhaling for depth. One last round of breath. Nice. Start to come all the way up. And then last little thing, crossing the shins in front of you, getting nice and high in your sit bones. And we'll take one last inhale together. Arms stretching all the way up to the sky, finding a ton of length. As you exhale, hands coming down, heart center, opening the eyes if they were closed. And that is it today, my friends. Some nice, easy, probably surprisingly intense stretches for the hamstrings and the backs of the legs. Similar to a couple of the other classes that I've been doing lately, these poses are great together, but they also can just be done in like very isolated moments. And if you do that at home, which I strongly recommend that you do, give yourself some time, like more time than we did in this class, like 5, 6, 7 breaths, which equates to usually a couple of minutes on either side. When you do that, as you start to get more comfortable with it, the hamstrings will start to unlock. So you pay attention, you feel for those moments when that breath and body connection really starts to click, and then dive a little deeper into it. Okay? So that's it for today, you guys. If you have any questions, we're all here. Otherwise, I'll see you next time. Again, my name is Amanda, and I hope you have a great, great day.